Good day. I'm Dean Jones, President and CEO of Realogic Sotheby's International Realty, and this is Market Perspectives. I have a very special guest. She is a mentor of mine. She is a dear friend. You are a keynote. You are an author. You are a global traveler. Tamra Fleming, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to be with you.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
It's been a journey we've been on for coming up on 4 years now. It's incredible. But before we jump into all of that, please share with our audience a little bit about Tamra Fleming and how you got to be where you are today.
Oh my gosh. Well, most of my life has been about making other people, their experiences in life better.
Yeah.
And that's what I've really wanted to do. It's been my intention. I've been in training and development. I've been in the corporate world. I've been in human resources. I've been in coaching. Mostly in the last 25 years, I've done everything from life coaching to business coaching to executive coaching, which is what I do now with my precious leaders.
Well, and you've been with some pretty precious leaders in a very special spot of recent. You did some global traveling that's taken you to the peak of our earth. Tell us about Bhutan.
Yeah, so I wanted an experience with some extraordinary leaders and to really dive in deeper to what is the leadership that's going to take the world forward today? What does that mean? What does who are we that show up in those roles? And how can I help leaders at the top be able to make those changes? And so I ended up joining a group called Abroad and got very integrated in with them and arrived on the mountaintops in Bhutan.
Incredible.
Yeah, last fall, and had the experiences of a deep, 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 very, very extraordinary immersion into life and leadership.
Yeah. And it's so important right now. I mean, we have been through a mess, a malaise of the economies up and down, political dysfunction, obviously the pandemic, some social challenges, and sometimes personal challenges along the way.
Yes.
And I mean, it really feels like, and I think you coined this, that the world needed to take a breath in the last couple of years. And I don't know, did you get the breather you were hoping for at the top of a mountain?
Well, yes, I did. I'll come back to that. But let me speak to the change. You know, when I think humanity is in an extraordinary time of change, systems have to change, people's consciousness has to change in order to make the world a better place. And so when change is afoot, it usually has this dismantling nature to it, takes things apart. People have to let go of the way things were, and decide what the next evolution of those things will be. In a better form. You know, humans are very resilient, and we are geared to make changes and to improve and to innovate. We're in an extraordinarily fast time of innovation right now. It's exponential, and so it's very uncomfortable for us. But the good news is you can see the light shining through the cracks of transformation. And some things happening back in Bhutan, for one example, that I'll explain later if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating what they're doing to sort of reinvent themselves, and you're okay with reinvention and transformation.
I love it.
You love it. I think you've been doing it to me for the last 4 years. I've certainly needed to evolve, you know, with the state of the markets and the state of just our overall environment in this industry. There's been so much change. And, you know, we've talked often about, like, you either kind of position yourself within the market or the market will happen to you, and you need to be in full integrity in order to see all corners of what the market is teaching you and then be prepared for that. And you know, we went through all kinds of different experiences. The Clifton Strength Finders was a very interesting analysis of us individually as leaders, right? But would it be fair to say that you sort of pulled us apart and put us back together along the last 4 years, and as a company and also as individual leaders?
Yeah, I think the letting go and moving into something new has been a very long process. You know, and I think that's true for a lot of the world. You know, we've been in a lot of change very quickly, but it's painfully taking a lot of time to do that. So just when we think we've got traction, something else happens to make us think again. And so I think we're at the stage now where we have what I would call calm waters, where you can just basically take a breath right now and rebuild from where we are. Based on what you have learned, because when you go through this level of transformation, it is extraordinarily, it's hard for people.
Yeah.
It's hard for the mind, can't get its mind around it, because it challenges you to change who you are, how you do things, how you think about things. Yet that's who we are as human beings, and that's what we're geared to do.
Well, we're
So it's
interdependent,
natural.
right? I mean, as a company, as an ecosystem, with our culture, our community, it's hard to change everything when some of the core of who we are, I think, is really beautiful, and we don't want to lose sight of what made us special in the first place. You know, what are your thoughts about what you saw in our company and what we're trying to double
Yeah.
back on?
Well, it's funny you asked that, because just recently I was reviewing all of my notes from 4 years ago and looking at all of the interviews I did with everyone
Yeah.
and commenting on how beautiful the culture was. And it's gone through a lot of change.
Sure.
And that's not all bad. It's not all good. You know, change happens for a lot of different reasons. And that the core value that I think has come through it, that the desire is to hang on to what's most important, which is the people, collaboration, being able to build a culture that people feel comfortable in and they feel like they really want to belong to.
Right.
And like I said, you know, this has been an extraordinary time of change. And so being a change facilitator, it's been a very long process to go through that. But again, the light is there now to be able to take the fundamental pieces of the core values, especially in this company, and build it forward into what you want next. And what that requires are cultural leaders
Yes.
that hold that heart and hold that ability to be in the center of what's most important to people, which I think is gathering together and supporting each other and collaborating.
Collaboration. Oh, I love it. We said that at the same time.
Yes.
We
yeah.
collaborated just there. I mean, on your Strength Finders, we share some joint strengths. I think command is one of them,
Yeah.
which is why we both grabbed the mic at the same time there.
Right.
And woo is one. What is woo? What's woo
no,
in
that's
you?
Andrea.
Oh, is
Andrea's
Andrea woo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're both achievers, and we have command in common.
Interesting.
And relators.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
Yep. So it's, you know, our part of the job has been to navigate the changes and to be able to make the decisions and do the things that we need to do to lead people out of where
Right.
we have been. But like I said, you know, everything changes all the time, and it has been for everyone in the world, for everything. And so when that happens, it's very hard to navigate it. And so you have to constantly learn how to check back in with yourself,
Right.
check back in with your core, check back in with your values that may come from your family or your lifestyle or whatever those things are, and re-choose who you want to be. We've been in this, we're still in it in the world right now, is choosing and re-choosing who we want to be and what we want to represent and stand for. And I think that as we see the world flow forward in those forced changes, you know,
Right.
because we have things happening in the world that are causing us to think. They're causing us to think much more deeply than we've ever thought before, as a race, as a community, as a race being humans on the
Right, of
earth.
course,
you know,
yeah.
the whole global system, how we want to be together, and we're moving from a separate kind of culture into a we culture, and that we culture is basically, going back to Bhutan, what they're representing, and they've been holding. And I did not know this, and the group that I went with had gone 16 years in a row.
Wow.
So lots of experience in integrating people from the West into this Bhutanese culture, this very tiny country that's, you know, the only carbon negative country on earth right
Wow,
now.
that's extraordinary.
Yeah, and they've protected their environment, but they also are up for change. 25 years ago, they didn't have internet or TV, so they were sequestered in their little country, doing their practices, and they brought that in, and that kind of modernization has now begun to change their culture. And about 9% of their youth has left the country to go out to experience the modern world.
Chase what they see in social media.
Yep. And what they are doing now is they are bringing the youth back to empower their country and build their country into the next version of itself. And if you think about that, that's an ecosystem of an entire country that got smart very, very quickly and said, if we don't take care of ourselves and we don't bring everyone back to the tribe, back together, and innovate how we're going to be as a country, we'll be left behind. And they are doing exactly the opposite in an extraordinary way, which if you'd like me to talk about the mindfulness city, I
Well,
will.
I think we should, because this whole idea of you being a change agent and seeing what's positive in a culture and realizing you can't be everything to everyone. And I think we should speak
Yeah.
about brands
Yep.
and holding on to what is true and at your core in the DNA of your company. And I'd like to hear what you think that is for us. And what is it in Bhutan? And why that's important for me right now is we are 100 years after the last pandemic, Spanish flu. They thought cities would be wiped out, and actually, surviving that and the First World War, I mean, cities came roaring back. Remember the Roaring 20s, right? And consumers took control of the economy. Capital was infused into that ecosystem, and credit was introduced. And obviously, there was some corrections in the stock market that would follow. But the point is the world went through a very dramatic shift culturally and economically. And I just wonder to what extent you're going to see a similar renaissance now, as downtown Seattle, for one, is going through a lot of change. We have a 15 million square feet of office overhang. It's going to have to rethink itself forward. We spoke about Dubai, who realized 25 years ago they had a problem. They're going to run out of oil. They're going to lose their competitive advantage. And so they built skyscrapers and became, effectively a financial, city in the middle of the desert, literally built from the sand up. And so when we speak about how municipalities and companies rethink their next, what are they doing in Bhutan to really think about the next century ahead?
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Let me unpack some of that. So first of all, I think I'll hold Bhutan out as as an element of this, because I think that as we move into our next era, that we really have to focus on balancing out between the financial, economic, technology advancements, all of the things that are happening now in the world, with humanity. Otherwise, we lose the thing that's most precious, is human beings that
Right.
can hold the ability to collaborate, to innovate, to love each other, and to hold on to something that only we can do. So I am a very big advocate of the balance between those, which is why when I learned more about Bhutan and I learned more about what the king of Bhutan, by the way, they turned themselves from a monarchy into a democracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 2008. And so he's 42 years old. He's very innovative and very progressive. But what he was saying is, we can do all of this together. We can be in balance. But we as a culture, he would say, have been holding this heart. And so my whole leadership adventure there was about sitting in the self and sitting in the heart, and really understanding the power of that as you live it and breathe it every single day. Very high vibration, if
Okay.
you will. But let me come back to the other part of this, because I was thinking about this earlier. Sotheby's is a brand that's got a lot of history,
Yeah.
a lot of longevity. It's very solid. And that, in a branding world, it's hard to get that, So you have that to stand on. And in your history, you've had a culture of collaboration and support of each other.
Yeah.
And so when you hear brokers talk about how wonderful it is to join a company where brokers help each other and talk to each other, not only that, but we recently launched the Accelerate program,
So
which
exciting.
is all about the brokers teaching each other,
Yep.
and also teaching in-time things that are required to help them move through it. And it's important that every broker in our world right now, and those who are thinking about joining us or will come to join us in the future, not thinking about us yet, to think about that. Because I think when you belong to something, and when you are in an experience where you have support from all directions, instead of competition and beating each other up, or
Right.
whatever that is, that you thrive. And so the brand stands on a legacy of a long-term durability. It stands on quality and integrity, and the people, the culture, in terms of what you're doing and where you're heading right now, is to build on that beauty even further, to make it a group of people you want to belong to.
Yeah, belonging is
So,
so key. I mean, I
yeah.
think that's the investment in our unique retail locations and their very dynamic venues for events. Like
Hmm.
later today, we'll be doing another installment of our Raise Your Vibe 2025 platform as a Galentine's theme event, celebrating women-owned businesses and, raising funds for Mary's Place. It just feels like the right thing to do. But, that was an organic, developed platform that was born from within and is now being carried on by others, including a
Hmm.
committee that includes our brokers and third-party businesses as well. And it's very heart-focused,
Hmm.
centered. And it is a cultural phenomenon in a sense that a company can have that within, and that's something that we want to celebrate beyond all the economic advantages and
Hmm.
other brand attributes.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's why I believe AI and robots, they're not going to replace our industry, because so much of it is, you know, um, person to person, the
The
relationship side of it.
relationships. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I'd like you to tie that back to Bhutan, because what did they discover about their culture that they are going to trade on as they not just sort of rebuild for the next 100 years, but actually a city from
Yeah.
ground up?
Yes. So the innovation, the vision is called Galafu, the Mindfulness City,
Mm-hmm.
and it's bringing in the Asian world, it's bringing all of commerce and the nature, the animals, and the people, and the spirituality all into one ecosystem. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a I can't remember now. They keep making it larger, but
Yeah.
huge. It's a mass city on the India side of the Himalayan mountains, and the airport's being the ground is being broken now for it,
Wow.
and all are welcome. So I want to come back to this because when I when I came back from Bhutan, it still is taking me a while to contemplate and integrate what I learned there because it was so profound. It was really, for me, a life changing
Mm.
experience. And as a leader, it made me sit down and think about a lot of things. One of the things that we're talking about is belonging, and one of
Mm-hmm.
their core beliefs in their culture is inclusivity, meaning that there are no need for invitations to anything. You are welcome anytime to anything, any event. You're welcome to a birthday party. You're
Mm.
welcome to a dinner. You're welcome to anytime. They open their homes and their doors to everyone. And I can't describe, you have to see that and experience that to know that it's just everyone is welcome. And so, in the sense of belonging in cultures, and we in our Western culture, we divide things a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
into us and them and this and that, and we get tribal, which is fine. But what if you opened your doors even wider? What would happen in your world? Who would you see, meet, learn, grow from, and how would your heart open even wider when you have a collaborative community like that? So that's one. And the other piece that I brought away from there that I have now made my word for 2025 is presence.
Mm.
And presence is being where you are deeply. That's not an easy thing for me to do because I'm busy in my mind and I like to do a lot of multitasking and things. So I'm learning it and I'm practicing it, but presence is what they do every day with each other. So there's no time clock or schedule. You get to sit and be with people and actually listen and learn and integrate your ideas and share your humanity and your wisdom and all of those things. So I think those are two big lessons because when I returned to the US after that trip, the minute I almost landed in San Francisco, it was busy, 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 fractured thought, grumpy people.
Yeah, so
And I
what a
thought, oh my
paradox. Yeah.
word, I had a wave of, oh geez, you know.
Yeah.
So, um, do I want to go back? I will go back. I am mapping my way to take my family back and to really have more people experience their country because they've been literally for thousands or hundreds of years holding this beautiful, high integrity space of love and kindness and compassion.
And they're building a city on that as a
Yeah.
bedrock foundation.
Yes. Yes.
And you believe other countries and businesses will descend on that, sort of like a more appropriate version of what a convention center might be in a large U.S. city. Let's just take Las Vegas, which sounds like the total polar opposite, perhaps, Sin City versus a city of mindfulness. But, not to poke at Las Vegas, but what do a lot of companies do? They convention there. And, we've done it with Sotheby's International Realty several times because it can hold that sort of energy, if you will. And you go there for that experience, which has now become more than gambling. It's food and beverage and entertainment and some culture. But is this mindfulness city attracting global attention just for being in balance?
Well, think about how incredibly challenging that is going to be with humanity to bring it into balance. But that's why the Lama Phagmo is the Lama in Bhutan. She's called the mother of all Buddhas, and she is actually the ambassador for the building of Gellifu.
Oh, fascinating.
And she recently just met with one of the top, she's meeting with top business leaders because she's talking about those deep beliefs in how you bring compassion and kindness into business and how it can coexist with competition and it can coexist with innovation. And the Gellifu city is going to be, if you see the renderings for it now, it's all about high tech, it's all about amazing transportation. In fact, all of the bridges that cross all of the rivers that are in the space are all meditative experiences. The dam is this ginormous dam that is built with steps on the outward facing side so that you can walk it in meditation and mindfulness. So it's amazing. It's mind-blowing, actually, that this is being done. And then I just discovered another one that's in the United States that's being innovated called Telosa. And they're looking for land right now. And so I started digging into that, and I need to know more. But it's another city that's built on treating humanity with equality and creating an environment where it generates itself. And so I'm going to look into Telosa too, because Telosa is a Greek word for, I think it's the purpose. It's finding your truth and your purpose in life, true purpose. And humans need that. We are the only creatures on Earth that can be aware of ourselves.
Sounds like the next franchise location for Sotheby's International Realty should
Well,
be
they
in
talked
Toulouse.
about real estate, but it's a different model.
Yeah.
And so it's worth exploring, and I know we've got Tadashi and everyone looking at all kinds of different kinds of housing right here in Seattle and Bellevue. And we're going to, with population continuing to increase, different kinds of housing models have to come forward, which they're being innovated right now.
Well, and they are trying to invent as well back to the evolution of cities. And, we've got some pretty significant problems with affordable housing and just transportation woes. And, there's conversations about igniting a brand new city like that. I mean, Centralia in Washington, for one, has been a topic of conversation about what would make sense next, right? For there to be a urban center created from something that is exurban, clearly. But, as I look at where we want to go with our company, and you've been such a fabulous leader to challenge the status quo and to bring us into heart as a business language, right, I think is important as well. But truly building the legacy, because I was asked recently on Accelerate, like, what's your why? Why are you doing it? And, I got the opportunity over the last several years to really think about what's next for me and for this company. And it is to build a legacy. I had left a family business of development, and I had this opportunity over the last 20 plus years to build a legacy in a different kind of way, a different kind of development. And it's really the brokerage development and the individual businesses that live within the sphere that we have invested so dearly to offer to them, and not to compete with them. I'm not a broker that's selling, right? I only want to exist to serve and to provide this platform, and that you flow so well into that mindset. And that's why I think we're attracting brokers that are building their own brand within our brand and proud of our brand. But really, to perfect the legacy that I seek, I want this to be the last brand they ever have to join, and that they can enjoy this legacy business model of retiring in what I truly believe is a lifestyle proposition. You can travel the world, make referrals around the world, have a very consistent brand experience no matter where you go. And you have some experience in that too. I mean, you were with the Four Seasons and Starbucks. I mean, what is what in your mind is a brand, and what do you see as being our journey forward with what we're building together?
Well, I think, in your history, you've created, and I'll just speak to Realogics
Mm.
rather than the Sotheby's ecosystem, that you created a world of culture and gathering and people
Mm.
being kind to each other and having an experience that makes you feel like you belong.
It's like a family.
Yes, a family. And so, while sometimes that's not easy being a family, there's always bumps in the road.
We have some dysfunctional family members
Things.
for sure.
Yeah, and it's all good though because we're kind and loving in terms of the evolution of that, but it's also deepening that. Like what a lot of families are not functional; they're dysfunctional. So how do we make it functional, and how do we make it the glue come together, and how does it become real? Because we're in an era in our evolution right now with humanity where it has to be real. It has to have essence to it. It has to have integrity to it. It has to have purpose to it. And so when that starts to happen, it's not even a question, it's a given. And it creates this momentum to basically have people feel at home. And again, there was a lot to address there, but when you feel at home, one of the things, by the way, that you've done, this is part of my past work as well, is life architecture, which is how does your space define your life? And how do you define your space? Because that relationship between the two of you is a mirror.
The physical environment?
Yeah, the physical environment. That was my meaning of space, was my architecture life, long time ago. Anyway, that philosophy, I call it psychology of space. Well, what you've done to create the home for people in this company is you've created offices. Now, there are a lot of brokerages that wouldn't do that because sometimes it doesn't pencil to have so much real estate, when you're doing your services, but you didn't do that. You chose a very unique and innovative path. And so when you created a space, you created an essence, and it's been a struggle getting the right essence in place.
Yeah,
and I think
retail through COVID wasn't fun.
No, and you now have Hokovine, and you now have Fog Rose, and you now have places of gathering. They're all in transformation, but what's most important for everyone to know and feel is that they are welcome there.
Right.
And when they have experiences there, that puts the glue in the community, and the legacy becomes a natural outcome of belonging to something that has essence and strength to it.
So let's speak to that for a second. Yeah, because it was a risk.
I'm passionate about this one.
And I'm passionate about it too, because I want them to work for their intended purpose, which is to be a living room for the community, but also a home away from home for our family, the family we choose, our brokers and our staff members. And COVID really challenged that because we have a lot of hybrid work and, work from home lifestyles. And I think, especially in real estate, our brokers have learned to work from their open houses and from their cars and be in motion. But we're trying to attract them back to be together because we want to see those tails wagging. And we want the ignition to occur where that collaboration has generated new ideas and invention. And speak to this for a second, because I know you've worked with me to lean into, my truth, into my future, my confidence to complete the 360 of building out the strengths that maybe weren't in existence in the past or needed to be harnessed further, and to take risks. You only do that when you feel stable, comfortable in your surrounding, resourced by people that care for you, and frankly, with all the advantages to make the best outcome possible. And that's what I feel like is my job as a CEO to do for my family, for the brokers that are taking a risk to make a change, to be a better version of themselves going forward. But it seems like it's an easier path, like Accelerate's doing that because they don't want to learn from me. They want to learn from their peers that they respect. And so they are taking risk, and they're transforming themselves. I mean, isn't that why you make a move to a different brokerage or you go to a resort destination for a certain experience? I mean, there is a result that you're looking for, and I want that result to keep nurturing into their future, and they don't have to sunset their career in the sunset of life, because this could be an ongoing annuity through our legacy plan. But that's a long journey, from a newer agent to one that's retiring in life. And I believe that that's what we will be at the end of the day, is our legacy will be measured by how many of those brokers enjoy that journey. But how would you package the conversation around feeling comfortable to make those kinds of changes, to take those kinds of risks. Because we meet so many brokers that don't feel like they can do it. I'm not a global real estate advisor, or I'm just a Mercer Island specialist. I don't know about downtown high rises, and the
Yeah.
world is so big.
Well, so I think Accelerate being our new learning system, which was an experiment last year because we
Mm-hmm.
said, what do the brokers need mostly right now? How can we help them deeply, quickly, and right on target?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how that got birthed. But I don't want to lose track with where we're heading here in this piece of you join something because it feels right to you. You
Mm-hmm.
join something because you have hope and a vision for yourself. Everyone's vision is different.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing what each person's vision is, each broker team, whatever their vision is, that's really important. And then being able, RSIR is a high service company. We
Mm-hmm.
have a beautiful staff.
Yes,
They
yes,
are
yes.
lovely people who are aiming every single day to be of service. You don't get that everywhere.
Right.
And so when you put that together with a broker or a broker team's purpose, then you can have momentum and you can have flow. That's a constant
Mm-hmm.
project. It's a constant learning. Sometimes we do surveys and we don't get as much participation, but we would love to invite everyone to do that because what that's doing is telling us exactly what they want and what we can do as a service
Collective learning.
provider.
Yep.
Yeah, to be able to do that. So we want the voices at the table, and there will be more of that. So we're encouraging more outreach in terms of what people need. When you're a broker and you're on your own, you're not on your own here if you don't want to be. So come to the table, come to the events, come to places where you meet people. One meeting can change your whole business.
Let's talk about that for a brief second, because three words come to mind, right? We have inspiration,
Hmm?
education, and activation. So inspiration being you attended a meeting, you learned something you didn't know you were going to be excited about, and you yearn for something better. You think it's possible. You're inspired. And then to be inspired, then you next need to be educated. How do I do that? What are the functional tools? Show me. And these work labs that we're doing through Accelerate, I think
Yeah.
has been really fundamentally changing the outlook of our brokers to perform in a different way, because you got to take an action if you want there to be a reaction. And then the activation part, like get out there and do it and fuel the win. And that's so important because we've been, like most companies, on a corrective course for the last couple of years. And that's been omnipresent throughout the industry. Read a headline and discover why. But it's been hard to endure through.
Yep.
But now I feel like we've kind of transferred into this. That's the Raise Your Vibe in 25. I mean, one of the core purposes of that is to hit the reset button, redeploy, participate, surround yourself with great beings, and go be your best self, right? Um, how do we encourage more of that, Tamara? I mean, so much of
Yeah.
your work is to develop leaders to believe that in themselves, and you need to do that on the broker level too, right? Not just with the executives.
Yeah, well, and for those who don't know me or haven't really, I don't know what I do. I have been here mostly for the staff
Right.
over this course of time as we've navigated these really rough waters of change that we've had, and it's been rough, not easy. However, coming up and out of that, gives us, I can feel the breath in my upper part of my chest now, like, okay, we can breathe a little bit and we can map towards something really excellent, and we are right now, and started doing that last fall. And I think what it goes to the inclusivity thing of the Bhutanese experience, which is don't be afraid to include yourself in anything and everything. Just ask and show up and do these things. We need to hear from our brokers so that we know what to do for them,
Right.
because we have an extraordinarily talented team, but if we don't know how to target it specifically at what brokers need each and every day, it's a little heartbreaking for the staff, because that's what they want to do. They want to make sure that everything is always of high service and is hitting the mark. Where I am encouraging this to go is to a much higher, deeper level of knowing that answer. What is it that the brokers really need? what is it that we can do to align our rich resources to them to be able to serve that in a way that also our staff survives? Because when you're a service or a caregiver, a service provider, it's a lot of work, and you want to make sure you're hitting the mark and you're doing the right thing, and you get the wins too.
The wins. I was just going to say, it has to start to feel good, right? And that you see the production. And, I was, here we are at the end of, well, actually it's the first day of February, and January preliminary numbers are coming through, and it looks like a 15 or 20% year-over-year increase in terms of sales volumes. And we know the propensity of what's ahead of us for 2025, our Thrive in 25 business model that we've been leaning in on, which will include growth, right? Adding to our agent roster, very important to accelerate with our existing agent roster. And we're seeing that bear fruit already, just a couple months into accelerate. So there's something beautiful happening from within through the collaboration, the culture of kindness and caring and support. And, I got to credit you and our enduring staff for seeing that potential in our leadership, our existing leadership, and that we're augmenting as we grow. It must be a little bit of a unique experience because you had some residential experiences yourself, but you've had a lot of other corporate experiences. I mean, what did you take away from Four Seasons or Starbucks or any other of your corporate CEO clients that you feel like you're importing here?
Yeah, well, Starbucks, it was in the day of them creating the third place in that era of time, and I was right there at the doorstep with training and development for the staff and the broker or staff and all the people. So it was a really extraordinary time.
Yeah.
But what I learned there was mainly how do you build a culture? Now you've seen Starbucks go through maturation, so they've lost touch with that. It's very hard to do that when you grow like that.
Right.
So these are the challenges, I think. But my experiences have been, I'm never very good at tooting my own horn or putting my experiences on LinkedIn or anything like that, but I have many vast experiences, but most of them are very intimate with either business leaders or CEOs that are trying to create the kind of change that they believe is right for their people and their business. And it's really mapping through all that. I've worked in all the ecosystems, small businesses. Mostly I like businesses that are 250 people or under. That's pretty much who I've served in the past, beyond my corporate jobs in the past. And so those sizes of companies struggle with infrastructure, and
right.
they struggle with how to get things done and then how to build a culture. One of my reasons for going to Bhutan is I was hanging out with some of the top HR people in our country,
Wow.
Patagonia and Airbnb, and people that are in a conversation about how do we treat our human kind people in our companies while we're doing a good business as well and serving the world. So that's where I land, and that's where I will continue to do my work as I go through my next few years of my evolution, is helping that happen for people. Because I think when you get all of that in balance and you get all of it clicking together, it's really fun.
It's so inspiring.
And we deserve some fun.
We deserve some fun. Well, I mean, I want to take a page, and it's nowhere in my near future, but you decided to push away from corporate America, and you were a titan in industry, and you had every possible advantage, and you just packed up one day and traveled
around the world for a year. I dematerialized my life. I lived in Bellevue. I sold my home, my car, and all my things.
Lord.
I put a backpack on in mid-career and traveled the world. It was always something that I wanted to do, which is the traveler in me. I mean, I think the world can teach you. I came back a totally different person. And I remember meeting with the head of HR for Starbucks after I got back, and she was having struggles, and I ended up flipping the script. I ended up being the counselor, the guide, the coach, and that's how I got into coaching. Is I thought, you know what, this is what I want to do. I want to help people who are impacting hundreds of other people change who they are so that they change the world.
That sounds like what we're doing, Tamra. You thought
That's
you came
right.
in for just a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and it's
Oh
been
my
several
gosh.
years, but
Yeah.
there was a lot of good work to do, and I dare say it's far beyond the transaction or paycheck that you have consulted and guided our company. And I just couldn't be more thankful and proud to sit alongside you on the executive team and see where this takes us next. But what a journey we've been on.
What a journey. It's all good. When it's bad, that means it's going to be really good on the other side.
Well, because we can learn from everything and
That's
we can
right.
evolve together.
That's
But I
right.
think we have something really beautiful that is continuing to be nurtured. And, you know, time will tell, but we're certainly on the right path. And with your guidance, we've made great strides. So we look forward to your comments at Raise Your Vibe 2025 just here in the next hour. Any final thoughts on that sort of social movement?
Yeah, I think that the more we can gather together and we can be kind and loving to each other, and the more we can boost and lift each other up, I think that's been happening in many women's groups, especially. Are doing that. I think, but you know, all humanity, the more that we can continue to do that, because basically, bottom line, that's who we are. And when we bring heart to everything we do, we will solve the problems of this world.
Yeah, well, we need more of that, that's for sure.
Yep.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yep.
This has been Market Perspectives with Tamra Fleming. And until next time, check us out on social media. Feel free to leave a comment. Have a great day.